We've got Alabama, we've got Ole Miss. It's the SEC opener in Tuscaloosa. The Tide reeling at this point, but they are still 2-1. And again, the slate is clean in conference play, so it's almost a new season. We got Stephen M. Smith on the line from touchdownalabama.com. And again, Stephen, of course, right here on YouTube with In My Own Words. Got to get on over there. Check out Stephen's show. It's every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 6:30 Central. Stephen, how we doing today?
Doing great, Mark. Cannot complain here. We got Bama Ole Miss this weekend in Bryant-Denny in Tuscaloosa. Round 4 between Nick Saban and Lane Kiffin. Kiffin trying to get that first win in there. And he'll have Pete Golding, who will be on the Ole Miss sideline this time around after spending the last 5 seasons prior to this year in Tuscaloosa.
Definitely some interesting encounters between teacher and mentor. A couple of years ago in 2020, of course, we had that scoring fest in Oxford. It was 48-all at one point, and then Bama eventually put up 63 to pull away in the last 5 minutes. And, of course, last year was a really good football game that was 27-24 in the fourth quarter before Bama capped it off with a field goal drive. So there's been some interesting affairs between Ole Miss and Alabama here. Before we get to that matchup, Stephen, was that offensive performance last week at South Florida the worst in the Saban era?
I think it was. I honestly think it was. I mean, for 3.5 quarters, we're talking about a lifeless Alabama team. And I understand you had the lightning delay, the inclement weather. South Florida came out with a lot of pressure, things like that. But I've never seen this team offensively look that lifeless, where offensive line could not block. You couldn't run the football. You couldn't pass protect. Tyler Buckner could not create any type of rhythm out there, as he was 5 for 14 himself with 34 passing yards. It looked awful. It looked absolutely awful until the second half, where it seemed like Bama was finally starting to get something going there in the run game. Of course, you make the switch to Ty Simpson at quarterback, and he leads 2 80-plus yard scoring drives that end up with touchdowns. So for about 3.5 quarters, you're looking like, what am I watching here? Like, what in the world am I watching here? And then the fourth quarter, you start to see, okay, here is some resemblance of the Alabama team we all seem to know and understand. So it was rough, Mark, for a good while there. Especially for me, it was rough there.
So, Stephen, now Jalen Milroe gets the call once again. And, of course, he played against Texas. He had a nice outing against Middle Tennessee, had a couple interception issues against Texas. Then he gets pulled. Tyler Buckner gets the call. And as you said, Ty Simpson came in and mopped it up against South Florida. So now they go back to Milroe. Did Nick Saban really clarify why Milroe's the selection?
He mentioned how the job that Milroe did, despite not playing against South Florida, the leadership he showed on the sideline, the support there of his teammates, the rallying of guys, keeping their energy and their focus into the game. And then for the most part, when Milroe has played in practice, he has been the most consistent of the group, of the bunch. In my opinion, I feel like the reason why Milroe did not play against South Florida is kind of Nick Saban's way of lighting the fire under you. Do you really want this? Do you really want to be the starting quarterback? Are you really willing to do the things necessary to have this job? And to me, it kind of goes back to what he did with Jacob Coker back in 2015. Coker started against Wisconsin to open the year. He started against Middle Tennessee. And then the Ole Miss game came in, and I'm not sure if Coker just didn't have that fire at that time, but Saban started Cooper Bateman that game. He benched Coker, started Bateman. There were a lot of struggles in that game. Things did not go Alabama's way. And then he goes back to Coker in the second half, and Coker leads this incredible comeback. You come so close to winning that game, but even in the 43-37 loss for Alabama, Ole Miss getting the win, Saban said, okay, I've got my guy. Coker has that fire. He really does want it. Here is the guy. And then Coker begin to really take off from there on out. So I kind of see it that way, in a sense of, Jalen Milroe, not a troublesome guy, wasn't in the doghouse by any sense of the imagination, but it was just Nick Saban pressing a button of, how bad do you really want this thing? And when he saw Milroe's leadership on the sideline, his encouragement, the passion, and the fire he displayed there, Saban's like, okay, I had to push this button to kind of get him to go a little bit more than what he was doing prior to.
Hey, Stephen, you mentioned offensive line, and it's, one discipline quarterback that here's a guy that needs to read defenses, do a lot of things in regards to his leadership ability and making right decisions and proper reads and all that. Then you got a completely different dynamic with an offensive line where they all work together and so forth. But you would just think at BAMA that they would just impose their will at some point, and those big 4 and 5 stars would get it together and just, will this team through a running game to take control of that game. And they did obviously play a better second half. But any thoughts or talk about what's wrong with the offensive line?
There was a team meeting, a players meeting on Sunday, Mark, with that group, and that group got a lot of stuff off its chest. That group got a lot of stuff in order. A lot of things were said. A lot of actions were taking place. But I feel like now there's a common thread of this is not how we need to play. Let's fix this. And whether it was leadership guys like Seth McLaughlin, J.C. Latham, Tyler Booker, getting into the faces of others and correcting some things. Now we're about to see against Ole Miss, what is the energy now where this offensive line is concerned? Because we heard all summer about we want to be physical, we want to be dominant, we want to make opponents quit. But we haven't seen that in the first 3 games of the season. Now against Ole Miss, as we start the conference slate, we are about to take a full notice of what was really said in that team meeting, in the players-only meeting, and did it have any true effect? Now, I was told players addressed everything. They laid it all out on the table. So I, for one, would just love to be a fly on the wall in that players meeting to really hear some of the words, some of the stuff that was used, the statements that were used. But we, as consumers of the game, we will see front and center on Saturday, based on how the team plays, was that message conveyed through?
We could have said for many years now, it would be interesting to be a fly on the wall and hear what Lane Kiffin has to say behind closed doors. But we also get enough of Lane Kiffin out in the open that's entertaining to hear. And certainly he had his, I got to credit him. He always takes the opportunity to acknowledge what Nick Saban did for him, to acknowledge how he was a mentor, instructor, a coach, a boss that taught him so much and brought him along. And that I think he actually made the statement this week. He doesn't know if he would be where he is right now without Nick Saban. But he also goes in different directions about, always kind of poking the bear. And this time it had to be with defensive signaling and whether those responsibilities are still Kevin Steele's in terms of the play calling, or Tavares Robinson. And Nick Saban, I guess, cleared that up.
Now, one thing about Lane Kiffin, he doesn't want anybody poking at Nick Saban unless it's him. That's Lane Kiffin. He wants nobody else rubbing shoulders at Nick Saban unless he's the one doing it. And I guess that's why people have this admiration or love, or just jokingly, that they love the comedy that is Lane Kiffin, whether it's on the sideline, whether it's on social media, regardless of where it is. Now, Coach Saban did address that. The defense is Kevin Steele's. He's the one making the calls. He's the one giving the signals, but there are other defensive coaches on the staff that help out. They pitch in. They share what they think about the game plan. They share what they may see, a wrinkle that they could provide. And Tavares Robinson, he was at DC before at South Carolina. So he's brought that expertise to Tuscaloosa, where he has a fresh set of eyes on things, where he may say, Steele, you may look at it like this, but here's another wrinkle that this defense could add. Here's a formation, a scheme that we can implement here. We all know that the overarching theme is Coach Saban anyway, but he loves to have other guys on staff in those meeting rooms, in those coaching settings to have a fresh perspective. And that's what T-Rob brings. He brings that fresh perspective.
I got to think that these players have full knowledge that even though they have not met expectations, they haven't looked good, they've dropped a game out of conference, that they play in a position where, hey, it all starts again this week, and it's all still on the table for them to live their dreams out and accomplish all their goals.
They have a chance to do this, Mark, starting this week, but they also know there's a sense of urgency, and we got to get this done now. All the sputtering mental errors that took place on the field in the last 3 games, that has to end against Ole Miss, because you can't give Lane Kiffin extra. It's already as a fight as it is going up against him straight up. So you give him extra, he takes advantage of that. I know, according to the guys in Vegas, Alabama with a 6.5 point favorite in that spread. So, of course, Saban's paying that no type of attention whatsoever. But this week is the week where, if you're an Alabama fan, all you want to see is, okay, has this team put the pieces together to resemble what we thought we were going to see from the jump start of the season? So it starts fresh. It starts new. You have your conference slate in. Fans want to see an exciting Bama take that field under full control here.
Folks, we would ask that you would like the video and subscribe here at the Voice of College Football, and certainly check out Steven's work. I don't know anybody that's more dedicated to his passion, his work, and does a better job than Steven. Again, you can catch him on his show, Touchdown Alabama. .com is the website, touchdownalabama.com. His show, in my own words, of course, right here on YouTube every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 6:30 Central. Steven, good to see you. Enjoy the game on Saturday.
I will definitely do so. And Mark, I also got to give credit here. The cuisine has taken an upgrade here. The last couple of times that I've been inside Bryant-Denny, this would be MTSU in Texas, that they've stepped up. We've got the barbecue brisket is now in there. So we've got the brisket. We've got some well-seasoned green beans in there. So apparently my notes have gotten to Greg Byrne as the AD, and they've upgraded the cuisine now.
Well, Stephen, I got to think that you pull a lot of weight at that place.
So it's about time that it's happened. So hopefully that will continue on Saturday.